Hey, Brian from SnakeBytes here. I'm at one of the coolest leopard gecko collections in the country. This show is all about leopard geckos. You're watching SnakeBytes. I'm here with Matt Barczyk from Sasobek Reptiles. First off, Matt, what got you into reptiles and why leopard geckos?
Well, Brian, I was always interested in fish and reptiles growing up, and whenever I went into the military, I wanted something for my dorm room, and I got a leopard gecko. And one leopard gecko turned into two leopard geckos, and then two leopard geckos turned into, let's see if I can breed these things, and that turned into what you see here today.
Well, it's awesome. Well, we're going to cover things like husbandry, breeding, even a bunch of cool color morphs. So we got a lot to do. You ready for this?
Let's do this.
What makes leopard geckos such amazing pet animals is their ease of husbandry. You want to keep the ambient temperature about 80 to 82 degrees with a 90-degree hotspot. And as you can see, there's a moist hide box in here, a water dish, and a bowl for mealworms. You also want to make sure to give them the proper vitamins.
Vitamin supplementation is very, very important whenever it comes to leopard geckos, their health and their growth. What I use is Vionate, which is a multivitamin, and Osteoform SA, which is a calcium powder, and I mix it to a ratio of 4:1 vitamins to calcium, and this actually makes the growth much faster and a healthier animal.
So I noticed that you feed the majority of your leopard geckos mealworms. Do you give them anything else besides that?
Mealworms is their staple diet, but I also have a colony of dubia roaches that I also use as food as well. These are for your problem feeders if they go off mealworms a little bit. Females while they're laying eggs to beef them back up, and also males, it's very important to give those a roach every once in a while, because whenever they're in with females, sometimes all they do is think about breeding, so you want to give them some additional food whenever they're rotating through the females. And this guy Monster here, he actually loves his roaches and eats them more than his mealworms.
What is Brian's greatest fear? A. Bridges, B. Spiders, or C. Chewy's back hair? Answer with a comment and keep watching to see if you're right.
Now that we've covered the basic husbandry of leopard geckos, let's get into the breeding. And first, you have to know what sex your animals are. Fortunately, leopard geckos are relatively easy to sex. You can see with females, they pretty much don't have any bulges down below their tail, and you can barely see their little femoral pores, whereas a big male like this guy here, it's really obvious. See those big bulges right there? And the pores are extremely pronounced. That way you know you have a male and a female. All right, so now we know we have male and female leopard geckos. Matt, what's the next step?
Well, you definitely have to make sure that you get the females up to a proper weight. If they're too small, you can cause problems like egg binding, stuff like that. You also want to make sure that they're healthy, nice plump fat. You don't want them too fat though, because too fat they can actually have problems laying eggs as well.
What's the optimum weight that you'd want a female?
It's kind of different per animal, because there's giants, there's Afghanicus crosses, stuff like that. So there's not really a specific weight, it's just an overall look of the animal.
Got it.
You want an athletic look that's not too fat, but you definitely want to have some fat to the tail.
All right, so once a female is up to that optimum weight, what are we looking for?
The next thing you want to look for is ovulations, which ovulations are just basically pink dots that you can see in the stomach, which is basically just the follicles. And if you look right here, you can actually see that this one has the two pink dots. So she's ready to go.
About 2 to 4 weeks after copulation, something really cool happens, and that's when the females start to deposit their eggs. Now they lay them right in this coconut husk that's a little bit damp to keep the eggs from dehydrating, and they'll typically lay 2 eggs at a time, and as you can see, these are the jewels that you're looking for right here. Little baby leopard geckos are inside this egg. Now what's a little bit different from a leopard gecko is compared to snakes is that the embryo doesn't adhere to the top of the egg. So if you do roll the egg, it's not going to kill the embryo. Now the other interesting thing about leopard geckos is something that's called sex temperature determination, which basically just means that depending on the type of temperature you're incubating the eggs will determine if it's a male or female. We're going to ask Matt a little more about this.
The great part about leopard geckos is the temperature sex determination. If you incubate at 80 degrees, you get mostly females and it takes about 60 days to hatch. If you incubate at 90 degrees, you get all males and it takes about 30 days to hatch. If you want a mixture of both sexes, you incubate in the mid-80s and they take about 45 days to hatch. The great part about this is that if you are looking to have more females, you can actually incubate at a lower temperature, and if you're looking to get more males, you can incubate at a higher temperature. What I like to do to get pretty females is actually start them off at 80 degrees, and then after 2 weeks, slowly raise the temperature in the incubation, and then that will produce prettier females.
Okay, so we've covered care, husbandry, breeding, hatching, all that stuff. Now let's just get into some really cool leopard geckos. Let's go ahead and start with this guy that's absolutely amazing. This is actually the very first dreamsicle that was ever produced. And basically a dreamsicle is a Max No Enigma raptor. What a gorgeous animal. This is what Matt is calling the G Project. It's really an incredibly colorful animal. Now the backstory on it is he was trying to breed for a greener leopard gecko and all this really brilliant orange started to come out. Now this is from the red stripe line and it's kind of a signature animal for Matt. He's kind of known all over the world for this particular project and I can certainly see why. Matt isn't only known for working with color mutations of leopard geckos, but he also works with subspecies and different species like this Hardwickii, which is actually its own species of gecko, and he's one of the only people in the entire world that's been successful breeding this amazing animal. You guys gotta check this animal out. It's amazing. This is actually a white and yellow raptor Max Snow, believe it or not. It's a lot to say. And what you have is the Max Snows being co-dominant, the white and yellow being dominant, and of course the raptor being two recessive traits, both the eclipse as well as the albino. Man, this is an amazing animal, and the white and yellows are a pretty new mutation, so they're still really sought after. Matt works with all three strains of albino. This happens to be the rainwater strain, which is basically the least common of the three strains, but as you can see, it's not a normal albino. It's really brilliant orange, and it's line bred for that particular trait, and it's called a firewater. This is a project I've been hearing about for years, and what a pleasure to actually be holding it. It's called a Black Pearl. They originated over in Europe and then were sold to a few people, and no one's quite figured it out yet. Obviously, it's a really dark animal. When they hatch out, they're almost black. Then they go through a little bit of a light phase and then darken up as they get older. The goal is, number one, to figure out if it's co-dominant, recessive, what exactly it is, and then to get it as dark as possible. But as you can see, they are truly breathtaking. Matt works with 7 of the 8 subspecies or species of Eublepharis. This happens to be the monster of the bunch. It's the Agramaniu, and it gets about 120 to 130 grams. This guy's only about 70 grams, so he's only about halfway there. It's going to be one impressive animal when it gets to an adult. Matt, this has been amazing. And you know what's really incredible is that usually when I'm filming snakes, they're striking at me or biting me. These geckos are all just so tame.
Well, you haven't met my guard gecko, Spike. Follow me. Brian, this is my guard gecko, Spike.
So there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Leopard geckos truly are an amazing animal, and Matt certainly has some incredible animals. If you guys want to follow any of my animal adventures, make sure to hit me up over on Facebook and Twitter at SnakeBytesTV. Until next week, you've been watching Snake Bites.
So what is Brian's greatest fear? Well, if you answered B, spiders, you are absolutely right. Chewy's back hair is a very close second.
When it comes to Cal Kings, I'm kind of a big enthusiast. I've been working towards this project for a long time. This is an albino, black and white, or desert phase California King, and you can see this little bugger is probably about 95% white. It's taken a long time to get there.